All right, so this is kind of an offshoot on Bull in the Basement of what we sort of already started with the Bills Superfan series. And I guess our current guest is a super fan and sort of started a super fan club, if you will, kind of sort of with a couple of friends. But he's also responsible for an incredible charitable organization that he started up that has helped hundreds of people in Western New York over the past almost decade and has raised stupid money. Reid, good to see you, buddy. How are you?
I'm great. I hate Superfan, but it's all good, man. Thanks. It's fine. Just a fan like everybody else.
Well, okay. And I appreciate your humility. I mean, that's part of why you are who you are and why everything you've done has really kind of had the Midas touch to it because you're that sort of grounded, right? So what we do on Bull in the Basement, for those of you that are watching for the very first time, Bills Mafia members, is basically break down and tell the stories of people that have an impact in Buffalo and Western New York, whether they're from here or they're expats or they're making their way through here. Reid, you are from here, right? I mean, high school, college. Tell us a little bit about your youth background.
Yeah, I grew up in Tonawanda, moved all the way to Kenmore.
Whoa.
It's quite.
Wait, I was gonna say you moved to a rival town. What?
Actually went to East for 2 years, went to West for 2 years, graduated from Kenmore West.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So my wife graduated from East. I can always say that I'm the only one in the household that has can say which school is better because I sampled both. And so she's more of she has a little bit of Stockholm syndrome. So but yeah, no. So I graduated from Kenmore West in '93. Went to Buffalo State for a year, and then they suggested that I maybe not go to Buffalo State for a while. went to ECC. Eventually got my priorities straight. Went back to Buff State. Academic clemency, beautiful thing. Ended up graduating on not top of the class, but okay, did okay. So computer information systems degree, and then during that whole stint, I got a job at Roswell Park doing web development. And I was there for about 14 and a half years before doing the whole shirt thing full time. So this was never part of the plan. It was a crazy pivot, but life is weird like that, right?
Yeah. You know, it's crazy because I would never have thought, I didn't know you were at Roswell for as long as you have been because you've done 26 shirts as long as you have. So now I'm aging you. So you are way older than I thought you were, is what I'm getting at.
I'm going to take that as a compliment.
It is backhanded, but yes. And I want to apologize to everybody listening because the fashion police, you can't see them. They're out of the shot, but they're ready to arrest me when this is done for this whole nonsense, right? I'm wearing like a Halloween colored Van Halen concert t-shirt with my red, white, and blue Bills Mafia hat. And I know Mafia are saying, oh, red, white, and blue Bills Mafia go with anything. No, this is not good, admittedly. And I've never had a good fashion sense, and a lot of reason why I was really not much on TV. At any rate, this is obviously for you and a part of why you're here. But we'll get to Mafia in a second. And before we do, for people that don't know, what came first? Did Bills Mafia come first, or did 26 Shirts come first?
Oh, Bills Mafia, for sure. 26 Shirts kind of like grew out of that, and it was going to be a 1-year project, kind of like under the the Mafia banner, and it just through a set of circumstances just became its own thing altogether. But yeah, so Bills Mafia started in 2011. Myself, Leslie and Breon kind of like led that charge, and then in 2013 I had the idea to do the shirt thing, and that's kind of how the timeline worked out.
Why and how do you think? And I want to go back to Bills Mafia later, but why do you think Bills Mafia took off as strongly and as well as it did? I mean, was there a particular moment where it went from, it had like their teenage, burst, like you're 14 and then when you're 15, you gain 6 inches of height, like, was there a spot on your, your graph where it was kind of like here and then bloop, like that? Did that happen, or was it just gradual growth?
You know what? That's a great question. I never thought about it like that. It's been gradual growth the whole time. It's one of those things that's maybe it's like an overnight success, years in the making, right? But yeah, so I remember, it's funny now, like everybody, not everybody, but so many people claim Bills Mafia as Bills fans, which is awesome. But I remember the first couple of years, I mean, people were making fun, like other Bills fans were making fun of fans that identified with Bills Mafia. They used to call it Burls Murphia. And it was like the punchline to a lot of fans' jokes, fellow fans and everything. Most of those fans won't admit to that now, but it's fine. It's all good. Everybody came around. It was something that was always meant to include anybody that wanted to be included with it. We just wanted to basically, well, it was all as maybe we'll get into that. Like, it was a big accident. Like, we weren't trying to create anything when this whole thing took off. It was really just a joke that kind of like spun out of control, and we thought maybe we could do some good with it.
I mean, it was kind of a hashtag, right? And then just people picked up on it. No.
Yeah. Well, it was a joke because like do you want me to get into the story? I can get into the story.
Why not?
Jump right in.
Yeah.
So that we have context, right?
Sure.
So 2010, Stevie Johnson drops that pass against the Steelers in overtime, goes on to blame God on Twitter, goes through the whole news cycle. And the example I always use is it was mentioned on The View. So, I mean, when you think about it, in 2010, the Bills were on no one's radar. Literally every single game that season was 1 p.m. Sunday. Which, I mean, selfishly, I love that. Like, I love being able to set a clock, but it's also an indicator of like, yeah, literally nobody outside of Western New York cares about your team.
Yeah, that was the heart of the drought. The heart of the drought, for sure. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And so, I mean, I think they're just coming off of Dick Duran and everything the year prior. So, Bills were in the news for a whole day, which is really strange in that time. That part of the Bills timeline ends up getting mentioned all over the place. And then the next day, like 4 p.m., 5 p.m., something, Adam Schefter retweets Stevie Johnson's God tweet from the night before. And anybody who follows the NFL even remotely knows that Adam Schefter is like, even back then, was like the channel through which 99% of all NFL information flowed through. And so for him to retweet a tweet that was so like old at that point, because you know how Twitter is, like it's next day things are over with, was just kind of weird. Like, and Twitter was different back then. It, like, now if you follow a bunch of people and they're all retweeting the same thing, you don't see it on your timeline over and over. But back then, anybody you followed who retweeted it, you would see it. So myself and Breon actually kicked off the Schefter breaking news hashtag. And so we all started kind of piling on a little bit. And I always say, I promise we weren't being nasty trolls, like swearing or anything like that. At least I wasn't. I don't remember seeing anything like that. Started making jokes about Adam Schefter with old news, like basically turned into like man invents fire hashtag Schefter breaking news. And apparently we just caught him on a good day and he blocked a bunch of us. And so that was the first time to my knowledge that I've ever been blocked by someone on Twitter. And fast forward like 6 months, Follow Friday used to be a thing on Twitter where you would recommend people that you follow to people that follow you. And ended up mentioned, it was like the week of the draft, I think it was. I still have the tweet bookmarked in my browser somewhere, but it's I said follow the Bills Mafia, and I named a bunch of us that had gotten blocked at that point. And it was one of those, like I said, just a joke. It was like I fired that tweet off. I think I was waiting to pick up a pizza at a pizzeria that doesn't even exist in Tonawanda anymore. And just absentmindedly just put that out there. And then, everybody was laughing at it and everything. And then it just kind of like gained steam and people started using it. We started using it just as a joke. Like, we did hashtag Team Bills Mafia and stuff like that. And just eventually once the lockout was over with, players started returning to camp. And Nick Barnett was actually the first one to use the term himself. Had a custom mouth guard made, which, obviously you go back to 2011 now, seeing that kind of thing, like, just blows your mind. It still does. It's still surreal. And so then all the players started using it, and it just started to gain steam from there. So that's just kind of the genesis of it all. And now in terms of like the growth of it, it's been a steady thing. So once we realized this was a thing that maybe we can do something with, we started selling t-shirts. And then somebody asked, like, was this whole Bills Mafia thing just about selling t-shirts? And it was like, no, we were all gainfully employed, right? The three of us, me, Breon, Leslie. Like, no, of course not. Like, this is like the most fun we've ever had with other fans and social media, which, back then still really new. No, we're not trying to exploit our fellow fans. We're trying to create something or shepherd something that can include all fans that want to support the team and, also, support the players and also defend the team to the Schefters of the world. And in Schefter's defense, like, he wasn't taking shots. It was just something we were just making fun of him for, right? But and so again, I was working at Roswell at the time. My office was 2 floors below the Alliance Foundation, which is like their development and everything. So I went up there and I tried to explain to the one person who was heading up that, fundraising at the time, Tammy. I tried to explain to her Twitter and Mafia and T-shirts, and she had no idea where I was coming from. I was giving her probably very little context. I said, "Can I just write you checks?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, of course." So put out a tweet that said, going forward, all Bills Mafia merchandise will support, Courage of Carly, or back then it was Carly's Club at Roswell Park. And that's always stuck to this day. 26 shirts, all the Mafia gear that we sell, it gives back to Carly's. So I think that helped give it staying power too. And I think it also kind of helped set the tone for what, the Bills Mafia was eventually going to become with the charitable mindedness and everything. So that's the Bills Mafia story in a very long nutshell.
So I'm going to share a Bills Mafia story with you, and I know you've heard a million of them. Where there's a Bills Mafia member from the North Pole, or there's a Bills Mafia member from, Zimbabwe, or fill in the blank place on the globe, right? I'm sure you've heard them all.
Mm-hmm.
So mine's probably not that great. But I was at a dude ranch last summer out in Colorado with family and started talking to one of the wranglers. It's a thing. Like, wranglers are a thing, right? This guy's probably 22, 23, finds out we're from Buffalo. He's like, "Oh man, Bills Mafia." I mean, first thing out of his mouth when he hears Buffalo. So I got him some of these hats. They're doing out in Colorado and anywhere else in the Midwest. They're doing the table smashing, the whole deal. I mean, they are adopted members of Bills Mafia. And again, I'm sure you're hearing stories like this all around the planet from people that maybe even were just sort of casual Bills fans that now have become Mafia members, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really big on the table smashing. To each their own. Like, I've never gone through one. I'll never go through one.
Me either. I'm too old. My insurance isn't good enough.
Yeah, I mean, but you see, this past draft, the player got drafted. I think was it Spencer Brown? Somebody got drafted and jumped through a table. Who has that waiting outside for that? That was weird. But yeah, no, Bills Mafia, whether it's through the tailgate antics or and you've met me in person before. That's not really like my jam. I'm kind of chill before the games, but whether it's through the tailgate antics or the fundraising and the giving, or just like the cool name, like I don't mean to like. It's just, I think EJ Manuel once said, it just sounds cool. He said, Bills Mafia just rolls off the tongue so nicely, I think he said. But yeah, it's crazy. It's something that definitely is, you say Buffalo and people think Bills Mafia right away. I mean, the NFL leads most conversations, like when you're out traveling, no matter what city you're from, what city you're visiting, the NFL, your NFL team or whatever always seems to lead the conversation. It's such a big part of American culture. But yeah, now Buffalo has one that's better than just like, oh yeah, you guys were bad for like a really long time, right? So it's nice that we at least have a better calling card now.
Well, and it is interesting too to see, and you have got to have some really soft space in your heart, and maybe you get a little flutter or something, a butterfly, when you see or hear anyone in the national media when they're talking about Bills and they mention Bills Mafia by name, whether it's Kyle Brandt or somebody on CBS or NBC or ESPN mentioning Bills Mafia by name. You got to be like, oh, this is still so cool, even though it's been as long as it's been.
Yeah, man, it never gets old. Dude, we were at the game. We were at the opener, right? And
game, yeah.
My wife and my 2 daughters were there, and where our seats are, we're pretty much, we have a full view of the scoreboard on the other side of the stadium, and it says almost the entire game. There's a little ribbon board. It says "Welcome Bills Mafia." Like that, dude. That how would I ever get used to stuff like that? Players getting drafted, the first thing they do is get on Twitter and tweet Bills Mafia. Like, how could I ever take that for granted or never think that this is normal? Like, this is something that was always going to happen. It's surreal, and a lot of weird things happened and lined up perfectly for it to actually come about. So I try to take too much credit because a lot of it is just crazy circumstance.
So, okay, we flipped sort of the order I had for this, but this happens because this is what we do on Bull in the Basement. It's very sort of top of mind as we flow here. So let's stay on Bills Mafia. If you don't know, people watching or listening, the Pagulas and Bills Mafia now have a relationship. Can you explain to folks how that happened and what that means?
Yeah. So one thing that people have always asked me over the years is like, well, did you copyright Bills Mafia? And no, I didn't, because you can't copyright something that has a copyrighted term within it. Like, you're wearing a Van Halen shirt right now. I can't like just copyright Van Halen dudes or Van Halen fans like that. Like there's something that's already in there that doesn't belong to me. And so that's why, and like I mentioned at the outset, like we were selling Bills Mafia stuff. Very quickly, I learned that you can't do that. So all of our stuff for years has just said Mafia on it, like the hat you're wearing, just
Right.
Mafia. It's implied, right? So they've always kind of had de facto ownership of the term, you know, whether people realize it or not. They have ownership of Bills Mafia, Bills Mob, Bills whatever you want to put in there.
Bills anything,
it's
right?
theirs,
Yeah.
Anything, yeah, whatever. So so that's always been kind of theirs to begin with. And so I actually, like, they reached out to me before any of this news even hit last October. And they said, this is what we want to do. This is what our plan is. And the whole idea was to help protect it in a lot of ways, because Bills Mafia, there's, you know, a lot of people that were using it and stuff like that. And they knew, I mean, like, I've had conversations with them in the past. Like, they know I'm not selling stuff that has Bills on it. I'm not trying to use their logo. I'm not trying to like leverage their intellectual property, you know, for my own purposes.
Right.
And so it was a really good conversation. And, you know, they said, hey, listen, we're going to adopt this term. Like, this has become the de facto name of the fan base, and we're not going to ignore it anymore. And so they adopted it. And like I said, they kept me in as part of the conversation and everything. And one thing I tried to stress with them in, you know, all the meetings, I had several meetings with them last fall, still continue to on a semi-regular basis, was just like, hey, listen, it's about community. Like, this isn't about, I know I sell a lot of Mafia t-shirts and Mafia hats. It's, you know, from what I'm doing, it's giving back to the community. The whole thing of Bills Mafia has always been, like I said before at the beginning of my story, it's never been to exploit our fans or try to make money. It's always been about trying to create something that develops community and gives us a banner to kind of rally under and to support our community in the process. Like, it really is like, I've often said the term, like, you know, Mafia means family, right? And supporting your fellow fan. That's always been the whole idea. So since the very early days of Bills Mafia, it's always been like, hey, you're Bills Mafia, I'm Bills Mafia, I got your back. And so that's one thing I really tried to stress with them. And they completely understood it. Like, turned out I was preaching to the choir. They understood everything that we were doing with it and everything. So it's been great conversations, and, you know, there's never been any contention, and it's not gonna lie, it's kind of cool to be able to play this role in, you know, what is my favorite things in life outside of like God and my family and stuff. Like, to be able to play this role in my favorite thing, none of it's taken for granted. So I always hoped that they would accept the name, and so they did, and this is what it looks like.
I was gonna say, I mean, it was sort of whimsical when you came up with it, and now you're like a part of the franchise again. Pinch yourself moment, right? I mean, my gosh, like, all these little things are like great pinch yourself moments for you.
Yeah, it really is. And I so far I haven't woken up. It's
good.
It's crazy. And I've always joked, if I do wake up, hey, that Bills Mafia dream was really cool. And hey, now I'm 35 again. So I can just, you know, I'm 10 years younger. So that's awesome. So either way, it's a win, right? No,
right.
But yeah, it's just, none of it's taken for granted. And, you know, I try to be as, you know, respectful of this weird position that I'm in with my fanhood and the community at large in Western New York and everything. I try to be really respectful of any weight that comes along with it.
How weird is it for you? Like, because we're at 26 shirts is next. So how weird is it for you? I mean, you are a celebrity now, right? I mean, you never got into or started this to be what you've become. You're probably getting more interview requests than some of the Bills players themselves at this point. I mean, and you've
I don't know
handled
about that, but
well, I mean, you're probably getting more. Well, I'm not going to name any players in particular, but I mean, there's guys that are, you know, deeper on the depth chart that you're probably getting more interview requests for. But I mean, you've handled it so well. I mean, so all of this that's kind of hit you and what you've become. I mean, I know you well enough to know that you haven't changed at all, but it still has had to impact you somehow. So how has this celebrity sort of worn off on you and your immediate family?
One thing I always say is, if I'm a celebrity, it's Z-list, man. Like, I'm a Z-list. You know, like, but no, it is weird. Like, okay, so I don't really share this much, but like, so we were in Disney back in July, just me, Chrissy, and the girls and everything. And actually, like, a couple people stopped me in Disney World and said like, "Hey, can I get my picture with you?" It feels so weird and awkward, and like at the same time, like, you don't want to be a jerk. Like, it's not like I'm too good for them. I feel like you want to get a picture with me, like, but so yeah, I do it. And it's weird. People have asked me to sign things in the past. I won't do that. Like, I'm not really like, no, I won't do that. I don't take it too seriously, but it is kind of weird. The girls, my oldest just graduated from high school, and my youngest is in 10th grade, and their friends all know that, their dad is the Bills Mafia guy, which is kind of kind of weird. And but yeah, I don't think it's affected us too much overall, outside of like these weird circumstances that have come up here and there, or these weird interactions. But it's just, I don't know. At this point, it's all my kids know, because it's been going on for 10 years. And just like I said, the whole key is just I try not to take it too seriously.
Yeah.
I try not to, I take it very seriously in terms of, like I said before, what comes along with being who I am in the community. But like, I try not to let it go to my head, because this all happened through a crazy set of circumstances. And I feel like I did nothing to deserve it. It just kind of landed in my lap. So now that I have this attention, I just want to use it for good.
And by the way, you're too busy to let it go to your head.
Crazy. In fact, it's like the past 2 weeks, like every week, every day has been something between family stuff and this stuff. It's every night. There's something going on, but that's all right.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No, man, it's great. I'm not complaining, man.
I know. I'm kidding.
It's all good.
Okay. So, all right, now let's shift over to 26 shirts, which is another amazing story all by itself. So you go, how do you go from your job at Roswell to coming up with this 26 shirts concept and then actually making it happen?
Okay. So, in 2011, the Bills Mafia stuff took off. Within about a year and a half, we realized that we were doing like these fundraiser tailgates and stuff like that, in addition to like the stuff I was selling on Cafe Press or whatever it was back then. Zazzle, I think, was one of them. So we were doing these different fundraisers. I didn't want to. Oh, we did these really cool watches. I wish I had one now. These Deuce watches, which were cool for like a couple of years.
Yep,
that was awesome. Actually, that was really fun to do that. That was like my first real large scale, like selling something for a fundraiser. But anyways, after about a year and a half, we created a nonprofit called Buffalo Fan Base, so that the money that we were raising was going through, all the proper channels. I've always wanted everything I do to be above board, because trolls are gonna come at you on social media no matter what, and say, "Oh, what are you doing with all that money?" Like, I got paper trails for everything. I've tried to make sure, because I always wanted to remain above board. So we created the nonprofit, and then later that year, I think it was awesome too. Like, our lawyer fees got paid because all these fellow fans kicked in, as sponsors. We had different color sponsors, like silver, gold, platinum sponsors and everything. And I think that listing is still on our website that shows everybody who helped create the Buffalo Fan Base nonprofit. And again, so that's humbling as well. And how much credit can I take when all these other fans were helping pay for it? So later that year, 2013, I had this idea. Somebody had reached out to me about, helping raise money for his daughter, who had a condition called retinoblastoma. And we just done shirts with the legend of Kiko. Remember that?
Sure,
Remember he was good for like a year. It was awesome.
Then
Then he went to Miami and became like Mr. Cheap Shot. But
is he still in the league, by the way? Do we know?
That's the whole. It doesn't matter at this point. Like, it's
right.
Completely like certain. That's the answer right there. Is
right.
he even in the league? So, but anyways, so we were selling the Legend of Kiko shirts, and we were raising money for a specific charity. And I started, like, gears started turning in my head. Like, these crazy things that happen real quickly. People want to wear a shirt to represent it, And so that was already going on in the back of my head. But so in October of 2013, Scott reached out to me about his daughter. Reading the story, I'm just like really moved by, the fact he was from Olean, lived in North Carolina, had to go to Sloan Kettering like every month or two so she'd get treatment and everything. Like, she had one eye removed, chemotherapy applied directly to the other eye. 2 years old. Like,
yeah.
it really dealt some crappy cards, right?
Yeah.
So just wanted to do something to help out. And so I had this idea to sell a shirt to help him. And then the more I thought about it was, you know what, I could probably do this like every week. God knows there's enough people that need help and assistance and stuff. And Bills fans, speaking as one, there's always that hunger for new merchandise, for new ways that you can rep your love for the team. And so I was speaking with some friends. I used to go to this Monday night like Bible study, accountability group, and everything, and really just close friends, just talking about this idea about helping out people in need through this shirt idea. And then said I could do it like every week. And then they're saying, like, slow down, like you got a wife, you got 2 kids, you have a full-time job at a cancer hospital. I don't really think that like every week is good. I said, yeah, I know, but I think I could do like every 2 weeks. Like I know my schedule, I know where I have gaps in time, and I think I could coordinate that as long as I could get artwork. I could do it. My buddy Jake looks at me and goes, dude, that's like 26 shirts. And I was like, yeah, I know, but I think I could do it. Because I was thinking of just a 1-year project, and that was it. Next morning, I wake up, and the way I always describe it is like it was like something that was like staring me in the face, like almost physical, that I could not see past. It said 20, it was like 26 shirts. And I was like, okay, I have to try this out. I have to think about this more. So I looked up the name 26 shirts. It's a weird name. There was no domain taken. There was no Twitter accounts or Instagram accounts or anything like that using that. So I grabbed all that stuff, and then I wrote a post on the Mafia website that said, I want to sell you 26 shirts. And I kind of explained the idea. And I talked about Scott and everything and his daughter. And then I always call it like my Jerry Maguire moment in that movie. He writes his mission statement and ends up being immediately accountable for it. Like he got like fired. I didn't get fired from Roswell. But, immediately people are like coming at me like, hey, this is an awesome idea. I'd love to contribute artwork. I'm going to buy every single shirt. One guy says, another person is just all these different people, like the news calls and say, hey, we want to do an interview about this. And I was like, holy crap. I was really just like brainstorming out loud, but all right, let's do it. And so it all came together super quickly. Oh, a local t-shirt company reached out and said, can we print your shirts? I was like, yeah, of course. So it all came together real quickly. It was going to be under the umbrella of the Mafia nonprofit. So I was talking with our lawyer at the time about it, and she went on to say, if you're going to be a nonprofit, you cannot deal with that much merchandise. Like it's just you're going to have a level of accountability that you don't want to have to deal with. So I was like, crap. So then I called the shirt company back, and Dan Giganti, who was named the company, and said, hey, not only just printing the shirts, but can you handle all the financial transactions, and can you handle like the donations and everything? And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And so that's when 26 shirts kind of split off from the nonprofit that we were working on at the time. But the goal was always for it to be a nonprofit. So that's why the entire time we've done this, we've been like transparent about how much we donate, because while we're not, while we are a private company, we want to be as transparent as possible with people about how much, when you buy a shirt, how much you're giving, and how much we've given to date and all that stuff. So fast forward a couple of years, and ended up getting laid off from Roswell. I was managing the web team, the web development team in information technology department. We had merged with the web team in the marketing department. And funny enough, teams don't need 2 managers. So, and that merger actually happened right around when 26 Shirts first launched. So for 2 years, they were doing, I give them credit. They were finding work for me to do, in terms of web development. But, the whole time it's a union job. I was getting paid at a management level to do, non-management work. And so eventually in 2015, they're like, yeah, this can't, we're eliminating that position. And they gave me the opportunity to post for another position that was open. But at that point, I had felt like I was driving to the wrong building every day. I felt like I should have been going to Tri-Main Center, which is where who was based, as opposed to 901 Washington, where my office was for Roswell. So I said, all right, I got to think about this. Called my wife. She was actually out of town at the time, and said, hey, I got some news. We kind of talked through it, and she has her whole end of the story that she could tell about how that all went down. But Dan invited me on as a 50% owner of the business. He's like, don't post for that position. Come here, work with me, 26 Shirts has effectively taken over everything that You and Who does anyways. So let's do this. And so when I left Roswell, they gave me like my severance was like 1 year's health insurance. So we decided, all right, let's give it a year because that part of life is taken care of for the next year. So let's think about it and see if we can make it work. And in a year, if it's not able to work or sooner, you know how money works, like this isn't working, we can't do this. Then I'll go back to the web development grind or whatever. Probably not at Roswell just because I'd kind of like not posted for that position. So who knows what would happen. But within 6 months, we had to hire somebody. And then about a year and a half after that, we had to hire somebody. And then it's just continued to grow like crazy. And just now between January 2019 and like this month, we've hired 4 people. So it's just continued to grow like crazy.
I was going to say, Bible study has paid off, my man.
Yeah, no, those are my boys.
I mean, situationally,
haven't talked to them too much, but
situationally, really good things have come off of things that could have been bad for you. So, I mean, awesome. I mean, I couldn't feel better for you for the way that it's worked out for you. So for people that don't know sort of like how 26 Shirts worked, I think you sort of described it. For people that are new to this, maybe you've heard of 26 Shirts, briefly describe like how it works and how you find the people to give some of the proceeds to.
Yeah, for sure. So I said in my story how it was every 2 weeks. Now it's every week. We launch a new 2-week campaign every week. Last year, I just got frustrated with the fact that we can only help 26 people a year. Really, like the audience that we have and the desire that people have for designs, like that's all we could do. And so Dan and I were brainstorming and eventually decided we could stagger it. And like, holy crap! So now we can do 52 shirts. And when I tweeted about it, I said, no, we're not changing our name. And we sell more than just shirts. We have mugs and hats and flags, all kinds of stuff. So there's more than 26 and it's not even shirts. So we're even worse than just pizza, right? So we're even worse than that. So but yeah, so every shirt we sell, we give a portion to a local family or a local nonprofit. So it's normally about $8 per shirt, depending on the campaign, the type of campaign. Sometimes it's not, but it's usually $8 per shirt for the stuff that we really push and promote. And in terms of how we find people, since day one, since I put out that tweet back in 2013 and that blog post, we have not had a hard time finding people. We have always had a wait list. So even right now, we have a wait list of about 3-4 months. And I'll imagine if I was only doing a shirt every 2 weeks, like that'd be twice as long.
Right.
And so it's good that we're able to get through that list, but just shows like, there's people that need help. And so we do our best. Like, so we put the shirt out there and I always tell the family member, listen, if you have a GoFundMe, if you have any kind of fundraising apparatus online or an event or something that I can promote through the listing, please give me a link to it. Because because on our product listings, you have a picture of the shirt and then below it, you have all of the details about who it's helping, if there was, if we used a freelance artist or if we developed it in-house and if there's a sponsor. And so every time it says who it's helping, it says the need. Typically, if they have a link, they'll say in the last sentence, please consider a shirt purchase or a donation to their online fundraiser. Because people might see the shirt, they might read about the person we're helping, and they might think that person, oh, I really want to help, but this shirt sucks. So we never, and people will tell us if it's bad. People are shy, but we never want to get in the way because we have this audience that we're sharing these stories with. We never want to get in the way of somebody who needs help. So listen, I'm confident that we're going to get ours and we're going to be fine. But so if you don't want to buy the shirt, that's fine. At least, help this person who's in a crappy situation.
So you're approaching your 10-year anniversary. It's getting close, pal. To this point, how many shirts have you sold and what kind of money have you generated to help out those folks in need?
Sure. So as of this morning, we have raised, I should say, I don't say we have donated, we have raised because donations come directly from the purchaser. $1,224,660. And in terms of the number of shirts,
hold on,
no,
I'm going to stand. Okay. Golf clap. I'm watching the Ryder Cup as I'm doing this. So
no, it's all good, man. It's you're applauding yourself. You've bought from us in the past, so you're applauding yourself, man. It's really a team effort. Like we can't do this, or I can't do this myself. I can't do it without my team. My team, we can't do it without all the people who believe in what we do and support us, whether it's sponsors or customers or whatever. In terms of the number of shirts, dude, I mean, I'm looking at this spreadsheet here. A lot. There's a lot. There's a lot. I don't think we've quite hit 1,000 unique designs, but if we're not there, then we're going to be there soon enough.
Isn't it interesting too? Like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but with the pandemic, there have been so many supply chain issues. Have you had any? It doesn't seem like
Yes.
you have. You have?
No. Yeah, we have absolutely had supply chain issues, and we normally give ourselves, like, anytime you purchase a shirt from us from our campaigns, it says, please allow 10 to 15 business days following the close of the campaign for your shirt to ship, because we have to get it. We don't order anything until the campaign's over, and then we have to wait for them to come from the printer, and then we ship them. So the printer has to wait to come from the wholesaler, and just the wholesalers. It's been tough, man. Like, we're like, for this next coming campaign that we have launching Monday, we're not offering scoop necks just because, and women, there's some women that will only buy scoop necks. We can't offer them because there are literally, through all of the different wholesalers that we're connected through, there are no Royal scoop necks available. There's one kind that we've never ordered from, so we're ordering some samples, but we're not going to have that in time for Monday. So it's been a real headache, to be honest with you, and we've had to sub in different things. And our About Us, or our FAQ page, explains all that. Like, these are the model shirts that we typically order, but we might have to change it just because of whatever issue. So it's been a real headache, and we've had to use like all 15 of those business days, and there's been a couple times we've had to use a couple extra just because we can't get the shirts in fast enough. It's incredibly frustrating.
It's really incredible what your two things have established. So Bills Mafia 26 shirts too, both of them. So there's now Bills Mafia Babes, right? Has now come off of Bills Mafia, which I'm sure you guys gave the thumbs up to and the okay to. And then off of 26 shirts, my gosh, I mean, you guys, I think, in terms of getting sort of the fundraising fan base contribution engine going, you guys are kind of responsible for that. I mean, let's face it, in the last 3 or 4 years, the Bills fan base has donated more to charity than they ever have, right? I mean, going back, starting with the Andy Dalton donations and then add up everything ever since. I think you guys were probably part of the inspiration for the City of Good Neighbors going from here to here. You should be very proud of that, obviously. And certainly look at the merch industry in terms of Buffalo. My gosh, you cornered the market. Now there's probably 5 or 6 or more different local t-shirt guys that are basically doing the same thing you guys are doing, but they're doing it for their profit. You're doing it for your charitable purposes, which is awesome. And I know maybe some of those other t-shirt makers have charity angles as well to what they're doing, but you were really the trailblazers in Buffalo of that. So congratulations to you, man. I appreciate your humility. I appreciate your hard work. I appreciate your dedication. I think we all do. And your friendship with me is cherished. So keep up the great work, helping out people all around the rest of New York and the globe that are Bills fans. And thanks for doing this. I know you're crazy busy and you fit in a good 30, 40 minutes with me. I really appreciate it, man.
Oh, for sure. You've always, helped, since we first met. I think it was at that job fair at Adams Mark. I don't even know why I was there. I was just walking through there. And ever since we met there, you've always been really gracious in terms of, providing, airtime and everything to everything I've got going on. So I appreciate that. And I totally lost my train of thought. What else I was going to say?
Good.
Oh, I remember. So I promised myself, and I'm not going to regret it. That's why I'm saying it. But every time I do an interview or a podcast, I want to end it with, the Bills are winning the Super Bowl this year. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a homer. They're winning the Super Bowl this year.
Got it. And what a road trip that would be to LA to see it happen, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about that. I don't know if no, seriously, like, I don't know if I want to not be in Buffalo.
That's a good point.
If the Bills do win the Super Bowl, like, I don't know if I want to be on the other side of the country.
Right.
I think I want to be here with everybody else.
Yep.
Probably in my basement, boarded up, fearing for safety and riots and stuff.
Reverse Armageddon.
Right? No, but no, for sure. I think I'd want to share that experience. I'd love to find out, though. I'd love to be given the opportunity to
Absolutely. 26shirts.com. Go there, read their mission statement, read about everything they've been doing over the years. Most of you watching this already know about it, but if you don't, please check it out. Del Reid, thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
You bet.